Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Presidential Address for Week 16. I cannot believe it's Week 16. Man, does time fly. I can't even believe I'm 53 years old. But that's a whole different story. Anyway, if you guys have never watched the show, thank you for tuning in. To all our loyal viewers, thank you guys. You're awesome. Please say something in the comment section. I will read it. I do respond to a bunch, but if you've never tuned into the show, here's how it's going to go down. Basically, I go down every single game on the board. I will be skipping the Thursday night and Monday night game, as I always do, but we will take apart every game on Saturday, and there are a lot, and then the 3 Sunday games. After that, we bring on Meghan Payton. She's got some prop bets for you, and after Meghan Payton, I come on to give out some show best bets. Before we get into that, let's recap last week. It was spectacular. Had a great week for our clients, another winning week in the NFL. And currently, I am now 93 wins and 72 losses this NFL season. Those are my client bet records. Those are the only records I actually care about. My show best bets. Oh, yeah. We got to 500. I knew we would. We're going to go on a roll now. We won all 3 last week. We are 22 and 22 in our show best bets. And in all our show plays and leans, we are 107 wins, 101 losses. Not good enough, but that does not take into account any of our prop bets because I don't give them out on the show. And they have been spectacular, around 60% win rate this year. Okay, let's get into it. Well, we're going to start with the New York Giants going into Minnesota. And, well, last night when I did all my research, the line was -3 for Minnesota. It is now -4 with a total that has been bet up to 48. There's actually a 48.5 on the board. And, well, let's take this game apart. I have a hard time not betting the Vikings here. I know we went with them last Saturday and lost by half a point after that insane comeback, but I just don't know how the Giants are going to keep pace. This Giants team, they played really well against Washington last week, but they were still very lucky to get out of there with the win. Their running game was great. Their defense was amazing, but come on, man. Their defense was amazing. They were playing the Commanders. Now they got the Vikings with a really well-balanced offense indoors on a speed track. I think the Vikings are going to give us a minimum of 24 points. And that just leads to the question, how many points could the Giants put up here? The Vikings are averaging 25 plus points per game, while the Giants are only averaging 20 points per game. Now, I know Minnesota has the worst defense in yards allowed in all of football, but this really should not come into play in this game because the Giants can't score much against anybody. The one good thing that Minnesota has done, well, medium thing on defense, is they're half decent stopping the run. And I think that might come into play here against the Giants. I really love the moxie the Vikings showed on Saturday, coming back for a historic win over the Colts. No team has ever come back from 33 points down, and they did. Most teams in that spot would just roll over and die, not them. And this bodes very well for their upcoming game. They have to come into this game with an incredible amount of confidence. Not only that, but they are not going to want to start this game in the same manner they started last week. I look at this game and I think it's indoors. The Giants have a one-dimensional offense. The Giants are coming in after what was probably their most important game of the year. And the Vikings have to feel really good about themselves. Initially, I was loving Minnesota at -3. At -4, I still lean on Minnesota, but I don't know if I'll get to the window. Our play on this game is Minnesota -4. Now we turn our attention to New Orleans going into Cleveland. And when I started researching this, it was +3 for New Orleans. It is now down to 2.5, which is a very big deal. The total has been bet up from 31.5 to 32.5, which is still a historically low total. What are we going to do in this game? Again, guys, I gotta look at the home favorite here. It's not like I think either of these teams are very good, But the more games Deshaun Watson plays, the better he's going to be. And he is by far, the best quarterback in this game. Not only that, but on paper, the Browns defense should be amazing. They haven't been all year, but they did step up last week against the Ravens, holding them to 3 points. The Ravens and the Saints have very similar type offense. Both teams are a run-first team. Neither team throws the ball deep, and both teams can't seem to score much. Cleveland knows they are out of it, but given their franchise QB just starting to play of late, I think this is a whole different team, and a team that I think wants to win out and go into next season feeling good about themselves. Here we have a Cleveland team with a much better QB, a much better running game, much better wide receivers, and an equal O-line. Furthermore, they both have a very similar type defense. This total is so low. I want to bet it under, but I can't. I'm not going to touch it. The only way to bet this game is take the Browns -2.5. Now we look at Detroit going into Carolina. Detroit is -2.5 here. The total in this game is around 44. It was 44.5. It has been bet down. There is a 43.5 out there as well. So if you are planning on betting the under in this game, I would do it ASAP. Anyway, here we go with the Lions. There's no other way to look at this. I'm still so mad I didn't take them last week, but I hated that they were an indoor team going outside in the middle of winter and also playing an unbelievable defense in the New York Jets. But they did it. They won. And they won in bad weather. And now they get to play Carolina, and it's not going to be nearly as bad weather-wise as it was in New York. I've been telling you all year how much I love this Lions team, and especially their coach and the culture he is building. That 4th-and-1 play that resulted in a touchdown to win the game for Detroit last week was epic. It was such a great play call. It showed so much guts and gumption, so much moxie, so much will to win. Now they play a Panthers team who really is struggling to score. 2 weeks ago, the Panthers put up 223 yards on the ground. Last week, they put up 21 yards on the ground. I am baffled at this team, and I think they are worse than their really bad record suggests. Detroit right now is the hottest team in football. They have such a well-balanced offense. They're number 5 in points scored, number 14 in yards on the ground, and that was with Swift injured a bunch of games, and number 8 in yards in the air. How do you defend against this team? This Lions team can win shootouts, 48-43. They can win low-scoring affairs, 20-17. They can play offense all game long, and they can play defense when it is needed. Their defense has improved a ton as the season progresses. Look, I'm not going to take the points here, guys. There's no point. 2.5. I'd rather take Detroit on the money line. It's -145. That's the play for us. Detroit on the money line at -145. Now we turn our attention to Cincinnati against New England. Line was 3.5 for Cincinnati. It has now been bet down to 3. The total in this game was 40. It has now been bet up to 41.5. And frankly, I'd love to pound Cincinnati here. But after the debacle at the end of the Raiders game last week, I'm going to lay off this game, guys. I have to believe we're going to get New England's very best effort this weekend. I just don't know if it's good enough. Cincinnati and New England, we're going to pass. Now we look at Buffalo and Chicago. Buffalo is going into this game at -9. There are a few 8.5s on the board. The total has stayed firm at around 40.5. I gave out Buffalo and Miami over the total last week as a free pick, and man, I wished I released it to my clients. I wrote in the analysis that the weather made no difference to me, as if I can get a Bills total around 40, I was playing it over no matter what. Now we have the same setup, but even better. Sure, it might be cold and windy and snowy and frankly miserable in Chicago. When isn't it? But we have 2 of the best running QBs in all of football, and that should negate the win to a degree. I also like the over in the Chicago game last week against Philly, and although we didn't get there, there were still 45 points scored in that game, which would be 5 points higher, well, 3.5 points higher than the current total of this game. When you look at this game, you have to believe bad weather or a perfect July day. Who cares? Josh Allen and the Bills are going to get their points. The Bears have the third worst defense in all of football in points allowed. They have allowed teams to average close to 26 points a game. That is ghastly. I have to believe the Bills will get to 27 here. So now the only question is, can the Bears score? Well, they've put up 19 plus points 7 of their last 8 games. 4 of those games, they were at 29 plus points. And the only game they were under 19 points was when Fields didn't play. I know the Bills have the second best defense in points allowed, but that number isn't real. First, it included games with Von Miller, who is a top 20 D maybe in history. And they get to play teams like the Jets and New England twice. Miami in bad weather put up 29 on them. Even with Miller, the Lions scored 25 on them. The Browns put up 23 on them. The Vikings put up 33 on them. This team can be scored on, and they do allow for over 100 yards a game on the ground. Bottom line, regardless of weather, I like the over here. I think we get this game. Look, I think we're going to see a 27-17, 27-20 type of football game take over the total in the Buffalo and Chicago game. Now we look at Houston going into Tennessee. Houston is +4. There's 4.5s out there. There's still a 5 around, and the total in this game is 36. Well, I must say kudos to the Texans for playing hard as hell the last 2 weeks and almost getting a win against KC. With that said, I cannot bet this game. Tennessee is in a free fall right now. They have to turn their season around. They're playing the right team to do it, but I don't know if they can score enough points to cover the number. Sorry, guys, we're going to pass. Now we turn our attention to Seattle at +10 against Kansas City. The total has been bet up to 49. Guys, I got to look at the over here, and here is why. KC is the number 1 scoring team in all of football. They're averaging a hair under 30 points per game. And I'm talking like a Carmine Bianco hair under 30 points per game. While Seattle is the 7th highest scoring team in the league, averaging around 25 points a game. That alone adds up to 55 points. As for their passing game, Kansas City number 1 in the league, Seattle number 9 in passing. With Seattle's backfield injured, both teams are going to be pass-first teams. Both teams have threats everywhere. Both teams can stretch the field. And from a defensive perspective, Seattle is the 4th worst team in the league in points allowed, while KC is also in the bottom half of the league. I'm baffled by this line. I don't understand why it's not over 51. Sure, Seattle only put up 13 points against San Fran, but that's the best defense in all of football. And before that, they put up 24 versus the Panthers, who are playing good D, and they put up 27 versus the Rams, 34 against Vegas. So it's not like Seattle can't get into the 30s. KC, on the other end, has put up 24 plus points in 7 games in a row, and that includes a game against Denver, one of the best defenses in all of football. I look at this game and I think both teams should be able to move the ball up and down the field. Both teams are good in the red zone. KC is lights out in the red zone. 7 TDs get us to 49 and a win. I think we see one of these teams get into the 30s. I would not be surprised if we see a 30-24 type football game. This number is way too low. We're going to take Kansas City and Seattle over the total. Now we look at Atlanta going into Baltimore, and this game is fascinating. Atlanta is +7.5. The total in this game, 37.5. And let's start by saying this. Last week, we took the Baltimore Ravens under and won. We took the Falcons and New Orleans Saints under and won. And there's no reason to overthink this game. We're just going to do it again. We're going to look at both the dog here and the under. Let's start with the under. In Atlanta's last 6 games, they have put up, listen to how bad this is. 18 points, 16 points, 13 points. They did have a good 27-point game, and then a 15-point game and a 17-point game. And it's not like they played San Fran in any of those games. And you think that's bad? Look at what the Ravens have done in their last 5 games. They put up 3 points, 16 points, 10 points. They also had a 27 spot. And before that, 13 points. And Lamar was playing in some of those games. I know this is a low total, but 20-17 still gets us a win. And I really can't see either of these teams getting to 20 points here. The weather will be cold, the field will be shitty, and neither of these teams can throw the ball. The Falcons are the second worst pass offense in all of football. They are averaging, I kid you not, 150 yards in the air a game. Josh Allen does that in a quarter. Baltimore is not much better. 6th worst passing D in football, averaging 180 yards a game. That is garbage. And that included Lamar playing. So this game is going to be one of, if not the most boring games of the weekend, and might end up being the lowest scoring game. Both teams must win this game. Both teams will play conservative football. Both teams will grind out first downs. They will run the clock as fast as humanly possible. If the score is, and I think this is a realistic score, 16-13, that still gives us 8.5 points to spare on that under. Why the Falcons? Well, I don't expect a lot of scoring in this game. And if the Falcons put up 10 points, the Ravens have to put up over 17 to cover that 7.5. I don't trust the Ravens to do that. I like the under better, but I definitely like Atlanta and Baltimore under the total. Now we look at the Washington Commanders going into San Fran. Washington is currently +7. The total in this game was 39.5, and it's been bet down to 38, and I understand that. Again, like the Falcons game, I'm looking to take the under. How is this line even close to 38-39? How many points do you think the Commanders can actually put up on this defense? Seattle, the Seahawks, who are scoring a ton of points, put up 13 against this D. I have to think Washington maxes out at 17 points here, which is 5 points more than they put up against the New York Giants last week. As for San Fran, this team is missing Debo. They will play conservative football with Purdy as their QB, and they will be happy as hell just to get out of this game with a win. Washington is only averaging 19 points a game on offense, and now they face the best defense in all of football. Come on, this team could literally be shut out on Sunday. And don't sleep on Washington's D, guys. They're the 9th best in the league in points allowed, and they will have one of their best games this week as they are fighting for a playoff spot and have to win this game. I would like to take the Commanders here as well at +7, 7.5, but I honestly think they're going to struggle to find 13 points. There's no reason San Fran can't put up 24. At the most, this game is 24-13, which still gets us to the under. Take Washington and San Fran under the total. Now we look at Philadelphia going into Dallas, and Dallas is -5, a total of 47. I'm going to make this super quick, guys. I'm passing on this game. I wish Jalen Hurts was playing. I would have been all over the Cowboys, but they're not. But he's not. I don't like the line. I'm just going to pass. There's other bets out there to play. As for the Sunday night game, what a doozy. The whole world will be watching. Forget about the finals in the World Cup soccer between France and Argentina. My prediction is at least 4 billion people will tune in to see the Las Vegas Raiders play the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. The advertisers are licking their chops. They cannot wait for the viewership. This will be the most epic Sunday Night Football game of all time. So what are we going to do? We're going to pass. Really? How the hell am I going to play this stupid game? Now we go to Sunday, and Sunday doesn't get much better. Oh my God. Green Bay +4.5. Now it's 4 against Miami, a total of 49.5. Look, at 4, it's not a great bet, but I do like Miami here. I understand that Green Bay is not quitting. They think they have an outside shot at the playoffs, but this is just not a very good football team, and they do not have a shot at the playoffs. Plus, this is a great spot to bet Miami. They're coming off 3 straight losses. They are now in dire need of a win. They're at home. They're playing Green Bay. They should be able to get it done. I do think they win this game, but I don't know if they can cover this number. As for the total, I can't bet under in a Miami game in this spot, and I certainly can't bet over in a Green Bay game. I do like Miami here at -4. I don't know if I'll get to the window. The last 2 games are a disaster. Denver against the Rams, I'm passing. I got nothing to say. I mean, these teams are brutal. Who knows who's going to show up? And as for Tampa Bay and Arizona, again, what a brutal game. Tampa Bay stinks and can't get out of their own way, and Arizona's even worse. This number is too high. How the hell am I going to take Tampa Bay at -6.5 points? I mean, come on, man. Brady could throw 4 freaking interceptions for all I know. Why would we bet this game? It just makes no sense. There's so much better opportunity out there. Anyway, we're passing on that game as well. That's it for the NFL presidential address, top to bottom. We got Meghan Payton joining us, and then we will get to our show best bets.
Thank you very much, Prez. Happy holidays. We've got a great slate of NFL games. I've got one prop for tonight's game, and then I've got 2 for Christmas Eve. Let's start with tonight. I'm looking at quarterback Trevor Lawrence over 11.5 rushing yards. The Jags and Lawrence right now are getting a lot of attention and a lot of praise, and Trevor Lawrence specifically getting praise for what he's doing through the air. But we have to remember, Trevor Lawrence can run. I mean, he's got speed, he's got toughness. He was the first overall pick for a reason. Lawrence is averaging 16 rushing yards per game. 11.5 seems like it's going to be pretty easy to hit. Not to mention, he's going up against a Jets defense that has struggled with mobile quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Jacoby Brissett, Kenny Pickett, they're all rushing more than 11.5 this season, well over that number. I like 11.5 over for Trevor Lawrence rushing yards. Let's switch over to Saturday. We've got our Christmas Eve games. I'm going to eye running back Dalvin Cook over 73.5 rushing yards. He's hit over this 5 of the last 7 games, and Dalvin Cook is getting a ton of carries. His production is a lot, and this number might seem high, but he's going to be going up against a Giants run defense that's allowing the 3rd most rushing yards per game, averaging 150. I like Dalvin Cook to run the ball a lot. The Minnesota Vikings are going into this game saying, establish the run and get points up early on so we don't have to rely on a second half comeback again. Take over 73.5 rushing yards for Dalvin Cook. My last bet I have is wide receiver DK Metcalf under 76.5 receiving yards. I've shied away from Seahawks props, not any reason in particular, but I looked at this number and I thought, this seems a bit high. The reason we're seeing it at 76.5 is because Tyler Lockett's out. We're also going to be seeing maybe some injuries within the wide receiver group, aside from Lockett. A few guys questionable. Marquise Goodwin's questionable. Tight end Noah Fant is questionable. But even with that, 76.5 is just too much. 10 games this season, the under has hit that for DK Metcalf. And he's not going to be getting as many open passes. They're going to be dealing with weather in Kansas City. 8 degrees kickoff. I like Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks to spread the ball out a little bit more, rely heavily on Will Dissly, some of their other tight ends. I like under 76.5 receiving yards for DK Metcalf. So we've got that. We've got over 73.5 rushing yards for Dalvin Cook. And for tonight, take over 11.5 rushing yards for Trevor Lawrence. Happy holidays. Thank you, Prez. Go cash some tickets.
Awesome stuff, Meghan Payton. We're lucky to have you guys. What a show. We got some more to do. I got my show best bets coming up. But before we get into that, we have an incredible site-wide promotion for everybody. It is our Christmas promotion, and here's how it works. Load up your shopping cart, anything you want to buy. You want to buy a your package of somebody. You want to buy my NFL season. You want to buy my college basketball and NBA season combined, which, by the way, if you don't, you're insane. My college hoops and NBA have been nothing but winning every single day. It's been a monster hoop season. But anyway, long story short, load up your cart and then use the promo code GIFT25, GIFT25. You get 25% off the entire shopping cart, but you only get to do this once. So, guys, if you're buying my NFL season, which you should be, put it in the shopping cart, use the promo code GIFT25, and you get a 25% discount. As for your show best bets, guys, we're going to go with the Cleveland Browns minus 2.5 against the New Orleans Saints. We're going with the Atlanta Falcons at plus 7.5 versus Baltimore Ravens. And we're going to take Miami at minus the 4. That's it for the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for week 17. I'm Lawrence Presman. Namaste.